On Simchas Torah, we read the Zos HaBracha. We sort of ended the Torah, but there's no such thing as ending the Torah because we straight away start again, and we started reading Parshas Bereishis. And this coming Shabbos is Shabbos Bereishis, and we will read the following. In Bereishis, Perek Beis, Pasuk Tesvav, Hashem took man and put him in the Garden of Eden. Vayikach Hashem Elokim es ha'adam, vayanichehu began Eden, la'ovda u'l'shomra. La'ovda u'l'shomra, to work and to guard it. What exactly do these things mean? The Medrash in Koheles Rabbah, Zion Kavches tells us, B'sha'a shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu es Adam HaRishon, at the time when Hashem created Adam HaRishon, Nitlu v'hechziruhu al kol ilane Gan Eden. He took him and he showed him round all the trees in the Garden of Eden. Va'omar lo, and he said to him, Ra'u ma'asai, look at my works, look what I've made. Come on, look how amazing everything I've made, how praiseworthy everything I've made. V'kol masher barasi bishvilcha, I made for you. Ten datcha, pay attention, look carefully. Shelo takalkel v'sachrev es olami, do not do anything to destroy or spoil my world. She'im kalkeles, if you do anything to destroy it. Ein mi sheyitaken acharecha, there is nobody who is going to be able to repair the damage that you have caused. Wow. Part of the man's duty in the Garden of Eden and part of our duty today is la'ovda u'l'shomra, to work the land, but also to guard the land. We have to take it in our power. We have to do everything in our power to look after nature. Hashem has created the world with a delicate balance, and Hashem has appointed mankind as shomrim over his nature in the world. And the Emeritus Chief Rabbi, Dr. Jonathan Sachs, in his book Faith in the Future, tells us a guardian is someone entrusted with property that does not belong to him. His task is to take charge of it and eventually return it intact to its owner. We have got a big responsibility, and whether that means anything to do with recycling, living in ecologically, not spoiling the countryside, not chucking out rubbish, taking care of the ozone layer, I would like to think that all these things are important. The world exists in a very delicate balance. We know, for example, we might think bumblebees are not important, but if we don't have bumblebees, they don't pollinate the apple orchards, and the fruit production would go down very, very radically in our country. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who passed away in 1888, wrote in his essay 19 Letters in letter 3 that Hashem created the world as a place where every creature was dependent and interdependent on every other creature in the world. And he says when Hashem created the world, he created it and he separated every creature, and none was henceforth able to exist and function by itself, but it has to be sustained by its fellow creatures, and in turn it had to help them exist and function. In this way, everything contributes according to its strength, however much or however little, to the existence of the whole. And if it destroys a fellow creature, it robs itself of what it needs for its own existence. Wow, how insightful. Perhaps only now, I don't know, maybe Greenpeace was created in 1970s, for example. It's almost 100 years after Shimshon Raphael Hirsch had passed away. We're more conscious of our environment, and we try and take into account recycling and be ecologically friendly and things like that. He continues, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch continues, and he says, when we look at Hashem creating man, and he says, La'ovda or L'shomra, it's not necessarily exactly as we thought originally, that it was to work in the garden and to guard the garden. It could also be viewed homiletically, because in the Gan Eden, Hashem had already done everything. The trees were already in maturity. There was already fruit, and Adam didn't actually have to work when he was in the Garden of Eden. It's only after he got expelled that he had to work in the garden. Perhaps Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch suggests that La'ovda or L'shomra refers to Avodas Hashem, and Shemira, our guardianship, refers to Shmiras Torah or mitzvahs, to observe Torah commandments. Interesting. In Mishlei, we read in Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yod Ches, Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba. The Torah is a tree of life to those who grasp it. That's hinting to us something like what Shimshon Raphael Hirsch already said. We already have our own Gan Eden. We already have the tree of life. We already know the recipe, how we can live and how we can serve Hashem and do la'ovdo l'shomra. We have to serve Hashem and do shmiras Torah mitzvahs. What we need to do is Torah is the antidote. Torah is the way that we have to learn, the way of life. And what we need to do is look at the Torah for advice about how to live, and we will be in our very own Gan Eden. We have to also care about the world. And specifically now, I'm thinking about how a market town in Wuhan selling meat could have caused so much disruption in the entire world. What are we going to do, la'ovdo l'shomra? What are we going to do as guardians of the world? Are we going to do our best to try and make sure that we do our best, social distancing, washing hands, face, space, as Boris says? I hope we're going to all do everything we can to look after ourselves and look after each other. I hope everybody has a happy and healthy year ahead, and I wish you all a good Shabbos.